Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmaswarupine avatara varisthaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Sri Ramakrishna is addressing Amrita and Trailokya. To Amrita and Trailokya, youngsters like Narendra and Rakhal are ever perfect. Every time they are born, they are devoted to God. An ordinary man acquires a little devotion after austerities and a hard struggle. But these boys have love of God from the very moment of their birth. They are like the natural image of Shiva, which springs forth from the earth and is not set up by human hands. The identity and identification of an individual to this extent can be made only by either the enlightened ones or the incarnations of God, especially to the ever perfect, the Nitya Siddhas like Narada. The identification even by ordinary realized souls of Jivan Muktas is little difficult. When incarnations come down, they identify. Till they tell, we will not even know. Now suppose we had read the life of either Rakhal, that is Brahmananda, or Naren, the Vivekananda, we would not understand by any means they are ever perfect, who are born just to preach mankind. And only when they say, we understand. Similarly, God, His existence cannot be understood by human mind. A thing called God exists because it is in senses cannot perceive, mind cannot conceive, intellect cannot discern. Such a thing beyond time and space, beyond relativity in the realm in which we stay, and there is no understanding of a realm beyond our visible world, perceivable world. Beyond that a world exists, there is neither proof nor there is any perception. Existence of God, existence of ever perfect state, existence of a life after birth, death cannot be, there is no proof. Just like mind itself doesn't have a proof of its existence because mind cannot be seen or perceived by any of the senses. Mind alone understands mind, that I have a mind. Like that, even these existence of God itself becomes a only scriptures are the authority to say, and the realized souls, yes, I have transcended the nature. I have entered a realm of the ever perfect, unchanging eternal reality, and you can go and reach the same thing what I have reached through this path, experience and come back. God can be seen, God can be perceived, God can be touched, known through the five senses and mind also. But you have to travel that path and go beyond all limitations and experience. This path and existence is shown by the realized source. I have done, you too can do. And what would be the result and how you experience also, and what is that ever perfect or ever eternal freedom from nature at all times, what it means. Also, what is my real existence independent of body? Body is ever-changing flux and with which I identify in the waking state, and in dream and sleep I dissociate from this physical body. My existence continues. What am I? I do not know. In sleep also it continues. In dreaming state also it continues. In deep sleep also it continues. And I continue to exist independent of body. Who am I? So these things can be known only by through even the Ramakrishna is incarnation of God. He is told by the enlightened sages like Totapuri. So many Goswamis, these that who come, who are enlightened souls like Buddha. These are also enlightened. Many enlightened souls come to Sri Ramakrishna and they certify, yes, he is the incarnation of God. From that alone we know. Otherwise, reading the life of Sri Ramakrishna, we can never know. Reading the life of Krishna or Rama, we can never know that they are incarnation of God. Even after telling, it is difficult to conceive what incarnation of God means or what it amounts to. So here Sri Ramakrishna is explaining to us about Naren and Rakhal. Narendra and Rakhal are ever perfect. These are free, totally free from nature, loss of nature. Nitya Siddhas like Narada the Nitya Siddhas, Chiranjeevis, Hanumanadi Chiranjeevis, then Jivan Mukta Purushas who are alive but released from the enlightened souls. And Ishwar Kotis like Narendra, all these are belong to the realm independent of the time and space bound relative existence in which we live. They can remain in the trans-relative existence even when the universe dissolves, retracts to merge, pralaya. The Srishti Sthiti Pralaya cycle goes on and on endlessly. Like we sleep and wake up, the whole universe goes back to causal form and again reappears. And when the dissolution takes place, these people can remain in the trans-relative existence, a realm that stands in between the absolute and relative. An extraordinary man acquires a little devotion after austerities and hard struggle. How much of struggle to acquire a little devotion to God, a little control over the senses and mind. Max Muller, who has translated many of the Indian philosophies and other things and has given to the West the Vedanta and all that, he tells even to acquire mastery over one of the first requirements, Yama Niyama. Yama, the Satya, Asteya, Aparigraha, Brahmacharya, from all these things, a few, even to acquire mastery over one of these, Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Aparigraha, Brahmacharya, of the 5 yamas, Yama Niyama, to acquire one, also a life is insufficient or impossible to acquire mastery over one Ahimsa or Satya or Brahmacharya or any of these. Each whole human life is insufficient. Each may require a life, he says. So difficult it is, and to acquire pure love of God and to love all beings unconditionally, whatever you are, still I love you, means how much of austerity, struggle, tapasya, this, that and all a man has to do. After that, a little devotion he acquires to God, not attaining perfection. An ordinary man acquires a little devotion after austerities and hard struggle. But these boys have love of God from the very moment of their birth. Why that hard struggle and austerity is necessary? Because our own past tendencies, what we have acquired, the past momentum, the I want this, I want that, enjoying the world again and again in various ways. The tendency is created to, though it constantly binds man and gives unending suffering, still the desire for enjoyment continues endlessly. So this struggle we see continuing. So the on other side is the nature's prompting drives and urges from within, drives of nature. So all this create helplessness of man to accept yielding to the desires and demands of flesh. We don't have an alternative. So forceful they are. So to transcend them, to calm down the mind, to pacify the senses, to bring the intellect under control, all this takes lot of time because it is a flow against the current, nature's current. But these boys have love from the very moment of their birth. When a child is born, we see about 20% is parental traits the child acquires. The rest 80% is the software what he brings from the previous lives. So with that he moves. They are like the natural image of Shiva which springs from the earth and is not set up by the human hands. The Shiva's image, that is the Shivalinga, there are stones which are specified and made and placed in certain places to worship Shiva. A cosmic personality which remains absorbed in the absolute, pervading the universe, still it remains that consciousness, the Shiva, the cosmic consciousness, the Parameshwara, which an aspect of his remains always immersed in the eternal bliss of the absolute existence. This we call Shiva. Same Parameshwara, the all-pervading consciousness, is another aspect through which he remains controlling, governing the universe, which we call Vishnu. Still another aspect of the same Parameshwara, the all-pervading Chaitanya, the Vishwa Chaitanya, is having another aspect at the time of creation after dissolution, again recreation, and we call it Brahma. Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara are three aspects of the same universal consciousness, the Vishwa Chaitanya, the Lord of the universe, whom we call, and the personal God, God with name, form, qualities and all, which can manifest in any aspect. So this Shiva, these are worshipped. The Vishnu is worshipped in his image, what is called Saligrama. Shiva is worshipped in a emblem called Shivalinga, a stone rounded like face. It can be any shape, a stone piece or a stone block. Usually it will be in a nicely removed, and it is just like head is removed of a person, the limbs are removed, the rest part is as if Shivalinga. That is, my senses and intellect, buddhi, are turned inward. The brain and 5 sense organs are in the head. When they are turned inward and gets absorbed, there is as if he is not having head, he is not perceiving anything, he is not reasoning anything. Now whatever perception is perception of the inner world, he is looking at the God with form in the heart. So, or the absolute existence pervading Anand Sachidananda Sagara, in it he is immersed. Limbs are not there, that means external activities are not there. Internal activities has begun. So this inward turned, like cap turned inward out and outward in. The whole thing has turned inward and only the trunk remains as a symbol of existence. This is something like Shivalinga. That is, whole thing is indrawn, inward return and experiencing the bliss of the absolute, bliss of the self. So this is worshipped as an ideal that I have to reach ultimately, to remain immersed in the absolute existence, in the bliss, peace, love, absolute, to remain absorbed. So this Shivalinga, there are the places where it naturally has emerged and is a part of the earth. It has emerged out and standing, where the sages who move about, the enlightened soul who move about, they see tremendous spiritual force emerging from that. Just like when we are moving somewhere, there is a spring of water emerging out, springing up from the bottom. How we will feel, oh, here is water source continuously springing out. Like that spiritual energy, spiritual existence is revealed in and through. They bow down. Oh, that place, the natural spirituality is being, the peace is radiated, the bliss is radiated. So where this love is radiated, and these people are able to perceive it. So this perception makes them, oh, you can worship Shiva here, which is absolute perfection, reveals the absolute perfection of being one with the absolute. So these places are called the atomic, it has present, God has presented himself as it, as if. There are other places where these are called Swayambhu Lingas. In India we have the 12 Swayambhu Lingas which are worshipped by people like Kedarnath, Rameshwar, and all these 12 Dwadasha Shivalingas. They are all Swayambhu. They have emerged Swayambhu. It itself has emerged out and projecting. Other places we place a Shivalinga and a symbol of worship, presence of God, and invoke in it the God's presence and worship. These are like ever existing. We dig a well, water is there, but there is natural spring. That natural spring is different from the digging. Then like that, Narendra and all are like natural spring where water is ever there. When we go to Himalayas and all many places, there is hot water spring, extreme cold. You cannot bear the cold. Such cold places like Kedar Badri and all these places, there are sources from which hot water is springing out. It is not to be dug. It is continuously hot water flowing out in that ice-bound area. So how the spring comes out? We may dig a well somewhere and see water we are getting, but there are springs also. Like spirituality emerges out, and spirituality can be invoked also. Here Sri Ramakrishna is giving the example of like natural springs wherein water is always available. That way here Sri Ramakrishna is explaining to us the how the ever perfect souls are. They are like natural image of Shiva, Swayambhulingas, which spring forth from the earth and is not set up by human hands. The ever perfect form a class by themselves. Not all birds have crooked beaks. The ever perfect are never attached to the world. There is the instance of Prahlada. The ever perfect form a class by themselves. They are now all the souls, every jiva, whether it is ant or any being or a bacteria or elephants or any living being or plants, they one day they are all moving towards absolute perfection through the process of evolution. We are all moving towards God, towards the source from where we all came. Every jiva is moving towards that evolutionary process, passing through the evolutionary process to the ever perfect state. Go back to the source. This evolution, in that we see we are in the chain, in the conveyor belt we are driven. We are yielding to nature. Nature is taking us, giving various good and bad experiences. We evolve. But these are ever perfect. They don't pass through anything. They drop in to give the message. They drop in to help others to climb that conveyor belt and go through the process of evolution fast to reach the ever perfect state, after which there is no nature's participation is not necessary to trim them or to chisel them. It is ever perfect. Ore has to be taken, crushed, smelted, and metal taken out, then shape must be given. These are naturally available perfected shapes which anybody can start utilizing immediately. So, there is the instance of Prahlada, ordinary Prahlada, Hiranyakashipu and Prahlada story we all know. From the childhood we have heard what all amidst the absolutely imperfect beings, he is one perfected soul that emerges out. So amidst the demons, a saint, a sage is emerging out. The ordinary people practice spiritual discipline and cultivate devotion to God. Ordinary people practice spiritual discipline. So many disciplines, japa, dhyana, puja, all these belong to the spiritual disciplines. Getting up early in the morning, seeing all beings with equanimity, serving wherever there is an opportunity to serve and there is a need to serve. All these amounts to spiritual disciplines. To feel empathy with the suffering. So many ways, and purity of heart, to see divine everywhere. These things, to cultivate universal love, all these are parts of the spiritual discipline. With that, practicing all that whole life, they cultivate devotion to God. But they also become attached to the world and are caught in the glamour of woman and gold. They are like flies which sit on flower or a sweet meat and light on the filth as well. Ordinary people, though they practice spiritual discipline, cultivate devotion to God. Now, the actual term of the devotion to God is where my all faculties are diverted towards God. My whole being is offered to God, devoted. My mind is devoted. My heart is devoted. This devotion is. But here, when it acquires pure and boundless or unlimited devotion to God, everything flows totally. But when it is having diversity, just like children go to school, they are studying, they go to school, as well as they are in the house, they are playing, making all fun and eating, drinking, all that is going on. Enjoying part is also going on, studies also are going. They are students. They are acquiring knowledge. They are students acquiring knowledge. That part is also there. Another part also is there, play and other things. Like that, so the more ordinary people cultivate the love of God also, devotion to God also, but at the same time, some part of their mind and body remains attached to the world also. This is Sri Ramakrishna is telling. That is why we call them ordinary souls. Apart from that, but ever perfect are like bees that light only on flowers and sip the honey. The ever perfect drink only the nectar of divine bliss. They are never inclined to the worldly pleasures. A highest ideal is placed before. This we cannot, not that we cannot become like ever perfect. All enlightened souls are like ever perfect. They are not to be any imperfection in their existence. But here we see Sri Ramakrishna differentiates two classes, but all are moving towards the same perfection, no doubt. But these may take a little longer period and a longer course, passing through many lives, but one day or the other, we all will be reaching the same goal, the ultimate ocean of bliss perfection. The devotion of ever perfect is not like the ordinary devotion that one requires as a result of strenuous spiritual discipline. There is strenuous spiritual discipline through that the ordinary people attain perfection, devotion to God, but these are different from the ever perfect. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.